Dick had made a deal with Suge, Doc, and Dre to sell him a recording studio that he owned. That was going to be something that they would own separate from the Death Row label because they wanted to have something that they owned. Suge came along and said he had found somebody to help them finance the purchase of the studio.
It's always been a subject of speculation where they got their original funding, and the FBI's continuing to look into this.
There are so many things you hear about this situation. I tell you this, Mike Harris was firmly planted in the middle of it.
On the news, they used to call Mike the Godfather.
Tonight, the story of a man who tried to murder his best friend. At the same time, he was attempting to win his way into Beverly Hills acceptance.
This is Michael Harris, a man drug agents describe as a major cocaine trafficker. At the young age of 26, he had already made millions of dollars. These are his roots, the streets of South Central Los Angeles, where he started pushing dope on street corners and hung with a blood street gang called the Bounty Hunters. In the drug world, he is known as Harry-O.
Mike Harris was a known entity in our community. You know, he was this guy bigger than life because Mike Harris was in jail doing things.
Prior to his incarceration, he was very visible. He had started doing numerous things in the community.
Harris built an organization that distributed cocaine in California, Arizona, Texas, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Missouri, Louisiana, Florida, and New York. Investigators say he dealt so much cocaine, major Colombian drug kingpins like Mario Villabona were obliged to deal directly with Harris. But like a mob godfather, Harris sought to legitimize his illicit fortune and gain Beverly Hills respectability.
I was not a drug dealer. I was a person who decided to sell drugs. But I also, at another point, decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. So I took those proceeds and invested in various real estate and businesses that turned out to be quite profitable.
Mike Harris had a wonderful background in entertainment. I think he was the first African-American ever to produce a Broadway show that was a smash, and it gave Denzel Washington his start.
Checkmate was the name of the play. The play opened on Broadway. Many of us African-Americans have been on Broadway, on the screen, out front singing and dancing, but very few of us have been there as producers.
I thought he was an entrepreneur in New York. I had no idea that he was in jail.
The first time I met Michael, it was a drug case involving Bo Bennett, Mario Villabona. That trial went and resulted in a number of convictions that went to trial in a federal court. And after that case, Michael, I believe, contacted David Kenner to have him represent him on his appeal.
David Kenner was a longtime Los Angeles criminal attorney. By the late 80s, he had become part of a fraternity of top-flight attorneys that handled a lot of federal cases, a lot of big drug cases downtown. In the course of his legal work, he became Michael Harris's attorney. I think if you look at clients of his over time, David has a habit of getting very close to his clients and getting very involved in his clients' lives, perhaps more so than would be wise for a lawyer.
David just, fell in love with Mike when they became friends. He was, he was a friend to us, I looked at him like family. I was out in L.A. by myself, and he, took me in, him and his family would go out to eat. We would, do everything together.
He became someone who was a confidant, a friend of Michael Harris's, and also involved in business with Michael Harris.
I think that he's a lawyer who had a lot of money, and he represented people who had a lot of money, and it would not be unusual to me for somebody who represented people with money to say, I want to invest.
To achieve the massive task of getting me out of prison, it took not just money, but power and the proper timing. At some point, we talked about getting into the entertainment business.
Everybody wants to be in the music business. And the years that I've worked, I've gotten tapes and offers from everyone from politicians, to businessmen who want to be in the entertainment business.
A young man by the name of Eric had told me about Suge's background, and that Suge was aware of my background, and that he was somewhat intrigued behind my past, and he had wanted to hook up with me in some form or fashion.
They started talking, Mike said, you got Dr. Dre, and Suge said, yeah, he a producer.
But once I found out that Suge was in the entertainment business, which I had been contemplating re-entering, I made the hookup, and we talked on the phone a few times.
Mike said, well, we need to meet. And Suge said, well, I got a couple of cases. You know, I can't get in to visit you. So Mike said, no, I got this attorney. He's bad. He can get you in here.
David Kenner brought Suge Knight to see Michael at Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown Los Angeles.
When I asked the question to Suge, what does it actually take? He told me that we could be 50-50 partners for about $1.5 million.
They set down their basic business plan that they would start a company called Godfather Entertainment, and one division of it would be Death Row Records.
What I suggested to David and Suge is that I do not include my name in the corporation, and that these guys could go ahead and do the actual upfront managing and representing of the company. Kenner started off as my guy, watching my back, supposedly, and Lydia was also there to represent my percentage of GF Entertainment, which we decided would be the parent company of Death Row.
One day, I see these two people walk in a building who I'd never seen before, and one was David Kenner, and the other was Lydia Harris.
In the summer of 1991, Kenner started coming around. There was a lot of buzz about this company, a lot of expectations that it could be a successful company. And David was one of the people around at the time making a play to be Suge's partner and to take care of business for Suge, to handle business for Suge.
A couple days after Mrs. Harris and David Kenner came in, things actually changed drastically. Immediately, the studio gets carpeted, things start getting fixed. I'm starting getting presented with money to find apartments for the artists that didn't have any apartments, didn't have any money. I'm also given an allowance for them.
I saw a few little upgrades in the studio, some chairs, some speakers.
And I was also told we'll be getting collect calls, and to accept them and to find Suge where he was and connect them.
We were assigned by them to build an awareness for Godfather Entertainment and to kick off their first vehicle, which is Death Row Records, to the industry.
Norman Winter, in his infinite wisdom, said, let's take the boys into Beverly Hills. Let's stick it in everybody's face. So off to Chasen's.
Let me see you put your hands together and say, oh yeah! Let me see somebody give Dre, Suge, DOC a round of applause. Death Row Records is going to be the record company of the 2000s.
We were thinking about putting in metal detectors at the entrance.
Everyone gets served with subpoenas as an invitation.
You're hereby ordered to appear before the Honorable Dr. Dre and the officers of GF Entertainment as a guest of the court to witness the springing of Death Row Records.
Put your hands together. Come on, y'all, make some noise.
We invited virtually every major record company executive in Los Angeles and New York, and it was so big that we originally planned on spending around 20, 25,000. I think it turned out to be 35 or 50.
They had enough money at that time behind them, and they looked good. For somebody that comes out of nowhere to have a party at Chasen's on Grammy night, which is reserved generally for all the white people. It's also a place that would never be associated with rap music in any way unless it was something co-sponsored by a white group.
The market we're going after, we're mainly for the people. I mean, for us, the West Coast, there's a lot of talent around that guys really don't have the opportunity to have a chance to prove themselves. So far as GF Entertainment goes, with the studio and the films, we're giving all the youngsters an opportunity from all the neighborhoods where basically we haven't forgot where we came from.
I personally interviewed all of the players that were there.
GF Entertainment is a multimedia company. We have Death Row Records, we have a movie production unit, concerts. We're going to be doing pay-per-view concerts and all kinds of exciting things.
In the beginning, they was giving Mike his props. And they was recognizing that there was another entity that helped this be one major powwow.
When it came to Dave Kenner, he toasted the man who made it all responsible, Harry O.
The label started with Dr. Dre, who was going to do his own thing, and with a lot of help from Suge Knight and Harry O and a number of people, and we got it all together.
And that's on tape, and the FBI confiscated that from me under very rude circumstances.
The origins of Death Row, starting with David Kenner, Michael Harris, and Suge Knight, didn't seem out of the ordinary until all the information started unfolding. Because David Kenner Nobody knew who he was.
David Kenner became the principal business attorney for the label, as well as the criminal attorney for many people at the label.
Los Angeles police announced that 21-year-old Calvin Broadus, better known as rap star Snoop Doggy Dogg, had turned himself into police on Friday, along with 2 other young black men, all accompanied by an attorney, in connection with the murder on August 25th of a man named Philip Waldemariam, in what police believe was a gang-related shooting.
It never should have gone to trial.
The alleged victim in this case had a gun, was reaching to his waistband to pull that gun out at the time Snoop's bodyguard fired a shot. And that's what we said from the beginning. The testimony makes it clear this is a case of self-defense.
The DA, he was a pain in the ass. He just tried to do everything in the world to make me seem like the most negative, gang-banging, criminal-minded motherfucker he could just imagine, and tried to paint a picture of me that just wasn't happening. It was crazy knowing that that's what his job was to do, was to get me locked up for life. You know what I'm saying? I just want to say, fuck you, bitch.
Dave Kenner was the guy who legally made Suge secure.
Suge had 5 or 6 pending cases, which David Kenner was able to control and get rid of.
One of the benefits Suge Knight gave to people that joined Death Row was to say that I have a legal team, people who have a lot of experience in the criminal arena that can help you. Whereas in the past, coming from a black community, you go into a white justice system where all the cards are stacked against you. Here, for the first time in most of their lives, they were given a lawyer who was very capable and an investigator on top of it. And the results spoke for themselves most of the time. They got to see instances where they were acquitted and cases which normally they would have been convicted. In the rap industry, the problems happen at 1 or 2 in the morning. So it's not a 9-to-5 job. David was the rare lawyer who would be available to clients at that hour.
Of the $70 or $80 million that Interscope paid them between 1995 and 1997, about $13 million of that went to the law offices of David Kenner or to David Kenner. Certainly, this company was his bread and butter for some time.
What's your name again?
David Kenner, K-E-N-N-E-R.
Interscope would have not been able to deal with the death row problems if it wasn't for Kenner. Kenner was the mediator. He would go to them and tell Jimmy how much money he needs to fix the situation and let him handle it his way.
I was quite surprised because you would expect a music business attorney, but he wasn't. He was a criminal attorney.
He had entertainment attorney qualities. You know, he's flamboyant and he's sharp and he's kind of mafia-ish, his whole persona.
After a while, David might have got so caught up in his lifestyle that he might have become somewhat confused, because the thing is David really was supposed to be working on getting Mike out.
David was handling Michael's appeal. David was involved very much in Lydia's life, was friends with Lydia. This was a person who was very trustworthy to him.
The business became more dominant and the legal situation got put on the back burner.
When I thought, man, Mike is making a ton of money. And then you see Dave Kenner there, so you say if Dave is there, then Mike is there. And then the stories start flashing. And then you know that there's a war going on.
It was rumors that, Suge was over there trying to get a deal at Interscope, but when he would go down and visit Mike, him and Kenner would say it wasn't true, but Mike say, hey, what's this in the newspaper? And Suge would say, oh, you know how the newspaper print up articles. So Mike said, well, they're not going to just print up anything. So he started asking David, what's going on? Then David came and said, Suge did this behind my back.
And that started to cause Michael concern about what exactly was going on. He started to get word that Suge was telling people, oh, Michael Harris is nobody, he's not my partner. And the word on the street was, Michael Harris is really pissed off with Suge, it's on.
He wanted to get all the credit, which Mike don't trip the credit. The world thinks that Suge did this on his own.
Once Suge got a taste of the spotlight, he wanted it, and he wanted it by himself. If Suge didn't want to be my partner, I didn't have a problem with that. But at least compensate me for my time and the money that I invested.
Mike's in jail, but he's got a wife, he's got a kid. He's got family out here. He's got people he's taking care of. So, his reaction is he's stunned. Then he's kind of mad about it. How you gonna punk me?
The phone was never blocked because it always had cats calling from the pen. Harry O wasn't the only one. But after a while, I even remember, and I think it was because of Harry, that they then blocked the phone. where it couldn't take no more calls.
David Kenner started off to play these guys against each other. Once the rift between Suge and Mike happened, Dave Kenner had to pledge allegiance one way or the other.
Throughout this time, even if Suge was denying his partnership with Michael, denying that Michael had any role in the company, David would be going up to visit Michael and saying, oh no, everything's okay, there's no problem, everything's fine, we're gonna get this taken care of.
It reminds me of the Brutus and Caesar.
At some point, Michael gets a hold of the incorporation paperwork of Death Row Records, realizes that Suge and David Kenner had set up a different company of Death Row Records that was independent of this GF Entertainment Michael had had a hand in. And I think Michael began to suspect that things were not so kosher with their partnership.
They had both crossed me, the person that brought them together.
He the one told Dave, hey, look at this, man, that guy Suge. I like him. Go talk to him. Okay, a record company, okay, I give you this amount of money. You tell him to do this. Okay, then him and Suge talking. Suge going to visit him. Suge, check this out. Put it down like this, man. Put it down like that. You do, David, you do this part. Keep him out of jail. You make sure you keep him out of jail. That's how Suge got all them probation and stuff. Dave fighting like he crazy. Keep him out of jail because Mike telling him to. Keep him out of jail. But guess what? Soon the money come in. Who? Harry-O. They turn to Scooby-Doo on it. Who's that? You know.
Mike said, well, where's the money at? And they said, you know, it's going to be 60 to 90 days, you know, before we see a royalty check. So those 60 and 90 days turned into a year.
I would send my representative to the office at Interscope to make arrangements to collect.
I went over and met with David Korn. He said, well, you know, what if we don't pay you? And I told him, I'm not threatening you, but I'm going to go on national TV and tell what really happened.
Everybody knew Harry-O wasn't no joke, okay? And everybody knew Harry-O had chips. And all you gotta do is be no joke and have chips, and you can get somebody handled.
That's when Michael typed up a letter.
Michael put his concerns on paper in the form of a lawsuit that could have been filed, that was never filed, laying out his grievances as to how he had been a founding partner in Death Row Records and had been denied his fair share of the proceeds. That lawsuit was shown to Interscope, and Interscope paid a fairly generous settlement to make it go away before it ever got filed.
The last meeting I think I had face-to-face with Kenner was when I was going to sue Interscope. He felt that I was right in what I was doing, but the time was wrong.
That next day, I got a call. They told me that Mike was in like a wheelchair. His mouth was twisted. I mean, he couldn't even walk. He couldn't even use his hands. He couldn't do nothing. I said, what happened? And that's when the doctor said he had Guillain-Barré. And I asked Mike, I said, well, did, you know, Kenner give you anything?
David is as smooth as you want to be and as vicious as you want to be, given the